times. I never did an official start. So, uh, for the purposes of the record, I'm just going to do a quick summary. Irene is taken from the doctor's office, and a discussion passes amongst the members of the group. They decide to go to the general store there in the town, make a phone call, find out that the police do not seem to have been notified about the events going on over the mansion. So after another brief discussion, it's decided that everyone is going to head back to London, drop off the evidence that is in the back of the truck to Irene's people. On the way, there's a convoy of vehicles which notices the awkward driving of Charles as they pass by, almost as if he was gawking or really doing something to draw attention to himself. A couple of vehicles turn around, veer off from the convoy, come up behind them, and they seem to lose interest after a few harrowing moments, and they turn back around again and head back the direction they were originally going. The rest of the travels are uninteresting. You get back to London, you drop off your package at Dockside Warehouse, and here we are. Current events. It is about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and there was some discussion about maybe going to the library. It's kind of a awkward thing to do at this particular time.
Irene, you got a safe house around here we could use? You look like you could really use some rest.
Irene definitely does look like she could use some rest. In fact, all of you would at least generally know that she's going to need to take it easy for a while to recover from her wounds. If she's up and about and she's trying to do her normal Irene stuff, then it's going to make it much more difficult for her to recover, and her condition could actually worsen if she pushes herself too hard. So it's up to you guys to look after her and make sure that she doesn't try to overdo it. Those were the doctor's instructions whenever you tried to discharge her against his recommendations.
Irene, if you got a safe house around here, I'll be happy to watch over you while these two guys check out the library. I'm not so much good there anyway.
Irene is saying she doesn't need someone to watch her. What they need to do is do research.
I mean, you look like you got hit by a shovel.
Irene's wounds are very fresh. I mean, she was just waylaid this morning. Her eyes are black. Her nose is all fat.
You're
Her
just gonna draw attention to us.
her lip is all busted and puffed up. Irene is still insisting that she's fine, and she seems to be persistent about the fact that she wants to go try to do some research on Shafiq.
Hey, that's fine. You're a grown ass woman. You want to walk around looking like half a zombie? That's up to you.
And you could always uh, gang up on her and try to persuade her. But for some reason, she seems to be very intent on this, almost like it's personal to her. You've not seen her, I mean, you've seen her kind of determined and insistent before, but there's something more about it this time around. You know, there's
Like
uh,
a psychology check to see if she is possessed or something like that.
maybe. I mean, you could do something like that, but
All right, I got a 5, I think. So go ahead and roll for me.
okay.
I think it's a 5. It might be a bit different.
And Irene, you could give a um, opposed roll if you wanted to, if you were trying to keep it uh, on the down low, your personal involvement. But at this rate, it really doesn't matter too much because Charles sucks. And
I mean, you're rolling for me, so you suck technically.
so, so Charles doesn't know exactly what is going on with Irene, but he does know that she is insistent and she almost seems to be desperate, you know, to the point where she's willing to put her own health at risk.
Well, if anyone asks, just tell them you on a car accident or something. Or a writing accident or whatever. Just tell me whatever story you want to use because you're going to draw attention to yourself looking like that.
All right, so you guys going to the library or where are you going to conduct your research? Barney is suggesting wisely, I would say, that you kind of figure out what your lodging is going to be before you start doing other things.
Does Irene have a safe house?
Last time that you tried to see if there was a safe house, it wasn't available. So you could see if the situation has changed. Give me a luck roll. No, there's not a safe house that is available. They all seem to be in use or reserved for more important operations than a bunch of refugees.
Well, maybe we can at least hide the truck at the warehouse while we're looking around. Gonna stand out like a sore thumb in the middle of London.
Okay, so Irina suggested that they go to a hotel on the outskirts of London, some sort of suburb or something, and stay out of the heart of the city.
Works for me.
Driving old Farmer Jed's truck. I Barney or Irene would both know of locations where you could get a place to stay. I mean, it's not going to be anything difficult to do. Heck, even the tourists could probably find out pretty easily. So, you guys travel to one of the suburbs outside of town. You find a place to stay. Who's paying for it? Who's forking the bill here? Okay, you getting rooms for the whole week? Okay, give me a credit rating roll. No, because your trust isn't fluid money that you can just draw from. If you fail, then you're going to need to um, share some rooms. You're not going to be able to afford separate rooms for everyone. Either that, or you're going to have to send a wire to New York to have him wire you some extra cash.
I've got a good amount of cash on me too, so if we need to, I can use.
Okay, well, some other people chip in, then uh, it would fall within your normal means of um, standard of living for you to be able to get a place. The main thing was that Barney was trying to get rooms for everyone, which would have been for the whole week, which would have been a pretty hefty bill. So that's why he needed to. If you guys are splitting the cost, then you'll be able to afford multiple rooms, or a couple rooms, I should say. All right, so you split up, two people per room. Who's staying with Irene? Or is she staying by herself?
Irene, it's your call. You want someone in there with you? You probably.
The rooms are double occupancy rooms. Whenever you check in, you get two doubles. You could be married for all they know.
Is anyone else bruised up at all?
Now, Irene does have a point there, is that she is pretty beat up looking, and so anyone who's staying with her might be assumed that they're a wife beater and beat her up. And no one else has any significant wounds, maybe just a few um, contusions, but not anything like Irene, where she looks like she was hammered poo.
She could wait in the car until we get a key and bring her directly to the room.
All right, so you guys get your rooms. 2 rooms at little hotel outside of London. And then there was discussion for Charles's benefit, since he can't see. Um, there was discussion about taking a train into town instead of driving the truck. But that is completely up to you guys.
I think that's smart. So that truck would definitely stand out a lot if anyone was looking for it.
Okay, so after you drop off the evidence, you find a hotel, you get checked in, you unload your stuff, and it's getting close to about 4 p.m.
Should somebody watch the back of the truck? Thinking back on it, we should have got some firewood.
I think he said wash the truck instead of watching the truck. Is that what you said, Bryce?
No, I said watch.
You
So
did say.
basically, I'm thinking.
Okay. Well, I was thinking you might want to wash the back of the truck since it probably has a bunch of blood. That would have been standard cleanup, though. After they took the head, you were down at the docks. They would have taken some buckets and rinsed the blood out of the back of it. That would have been standard
Did
procedure. The head is gone. Irene's people took it, so there's nothing to watch in the truck unless you're just wanting to make sure that no one takes it or something.
no, no, that.
All right, if you were saying more, you cut out. I just heard you say no. That's okay. So,
Yeah, I'm pulling up home, so I'm probably gonna lose signal. But also, I got to go check in with the family, so I don't know if I'll be back on or not. So I'm gonna try to get back on though in a little bit.
okay. Well, we'll just kind of have you fade into the background then as they do their research. We'll see you later if you can get on. Otherwise, have a good evening.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
All right, so with everyone else, Charles just kind of decides that he's going to hang out here at the hotel, and he's tired. Remember, you guys have been up for a while. I mean, you slept before your midnight rendezvous, but at this point you have been up since, what was it, like 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So it's been a pretty full day. So Charles is kind of tired. He's wanting to hit the sack. And everyone else, at Charles's suggestion, they decide, that's actually a pretty good idea. It has been a long day. Maybe we shouldn't push it. Even Irene seems to concede, and as she yawns a little bit, and um, that bed is looking awfully nice as you guys check into your rooms and unload your gear. And she kind of plops down on it, and she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, now that I'm laying down, maybe I actually don't want to get up and go reading through a bunch of books. Alright, so you guys settle in for the night and you rest. Everyone except for Irene gets to recover 1 hit point. I think she's the only one who has a major wound. Is that correct? Which Irene has a major wound. That should be checkmarked on her sheet, which I just did. So now, since you've rested for the evening, make your overnight resting luck rolls. Everyone failed, it looks like. Oh, I need to roll for Charles here. So he doesn't miss out. Even Charles fails. And he gets 3. And he heals back up to full. Yeah, he was home, so he was going to go in with the family and get off of Discord for a bit. He may or may not be back. Alright, so fast forwarding through the night. You wake up the next morning. It is Tuesday the 17th at 8 in the morning. As you make plans for what you wish to do for the day. Okay, so depending on what you're wanting to research, just to throw out there, you are not going to find jack squat about Shafiq in the library. So, if you're wanting to try to research other things, then by all means you can, but you're going to have to come up with a different approach. So you could go to the local courthouse, deeds and properties and things of that nature. Okay, so you go, you look up what properties she has. Give me a library use roll. Okay, Barney, what are you doing? Are you coming along also? Or are you doing your own thing? Alright, so there's a whole slew of red tape and paperwork and crap that you have to go through to get these records and uh, you know, which are public records, to a point. There's some things that aren't public domain, but um, you fill out the proper forms and pay the proper fees and for this and that and speak to the proper people and go to the proper departments, and it's a big circle and rigmarole that you go on throughout the day. However, fortunately, Kansas, even though he's not really familiar with uh, English bureaucracy, he manages to kind of keep the process moving along without stagnating. And you manage to fill out the proper stuff and get the information, and the administrator helping you, they lead you into the place, where you can get the information, and you find out that based on the name that you give them that you're wanting to look up, that um, that particular individual owns Empire Spices. And that seems to be the only property that is owned by that person. Okay, Kansas, on a hunch, he digs a little bit deeper. And he's like, okay, no, Charles is not coming along. Charles is staying at the hotel. Um, he's following up on a few other things. Maybe he's sharpening his knife or loading his gun. Who knows? Right, working on his accent. Standing in front of the mirror. Okay, so on a hunch, Kansas goes and he digs a little bit deeper. Yeah, he could be doing a report to send home too. That would actually be the most likely thing that he would be doing. And Kansas does find some other properties that are jointly owned. Um, Properties that are owned by Edward Gavigan, or they're owned by jointly between her and Edward Gavigan. There's a warehouse in Soho that is jointly owned by the two of them. Is there anything else that you're going to look into other than Shafiq? Okay, we're going to go through public police blotters. Okay, that is going to be a different department and a different set of research criteria. So you're ready to leave this particular office and looking up deeds and records. It's up to you. Whatever you say you're looking up, that's what you'll be looking up. So what do you say, Barney, Kansas? You do not have any engineering diagrams of the Mr. House. It is way too old to have any kind of engineering records. Especially since it's not in this county either. Yes, that was in the county records over in Essex. You still never did find an engineering blueprint schematic or anything like that, but you just found a historical record report that the house was at one point used um, for other things before it was purchased um, by Lloyd Price and then subsequently afterwards Gavigan. Well, Kansas wasn't there searching, unfortunately. He was tending to Irene. No, you can't make the roll now because you're not there looking. You don't have the uh, personal perspective. Of, hey, this kind of thing is kind of traditionally where they would put secret doors. And all right, so since I'm not other properties for Gavigan, there you go. Following up on a lead, or following up on the hunch that led you to the joint ownership, then you're like, well, while we're at it, may as well look and see what Gavigan owns. And so you, of course, find uh, his London townhouse. You also find out that he owns an estate in another county, but there's not really any detailed information about that other than just a mentioning of other properties in Essex. You also find out that he owns a manufacturing company in north of here. Also, again, in a different county. But yes, you do find mention of Henson Manufacturing being owned by Gavigan. It's not unusual for a wealthy English businessman to have various different business interests, or to have some sort of a factory in this day and age. It is a very profitable um, enterprise, manufacturing. You could maybe do further research into Henson. Unfortunately, the information on Henson Manufacturing is rather vague, seeing as how it is not in the same town or the same county. It's way up in Derby. Um, the only thing that you can really uncover is that Henson Manufacturing is responsible for the manufacturing of various different parts, um, machinery items. It's like a machine shop kind of a place. And that's really the only thing that you can find out. Derby is a hub for industry and manufacturing, particularly automobile, aircraft, and railway engineering. Um, Actually, there is information that you can find out about them if you go to the company's house in London, which is more where um, you find out information about particular businesses and everything. So, since you already have a lead on this, give me another um, library use roll with a bonus die. Since you kind of have a very narrow scope, is what you're looking for. Everyone can make a roll with a boost. Alright, are you going to spend luck? Alright, so you find out that um, the sale of the business to Edward Gavigan took place in 1921. Little in the way of reported accounts can be found. The business is listed as manufacture and fabrication of machine parts with an address on the western edge of Derby. So he bought the business in 1921. Manufacture and fabrication of machine parts. The Carlisle Expedition. Let's look here. Tying a few things together, are we? So Gavigan bought Misser House in 1915. Probably because you changed your name. Remember you logged in with like a capital T instead of a lowercase t at some point, and I had to give you new ownership of your token, so that affected your notes as well. So, give me just a second here. Irene's notes. Did that give you ownership of them? Okay. Then what I need to do is I need you to create a new note. And I will copy and paste the information. Okay, it looks like there's an archive too. Okay. Looks like the formatting did not come across whenever I copied and pasted. Okay, I need to put a asterisk in front of this so it puts it up there. Okay. So you can let me know if you want me to delete the old one and have this new one as your primary, but yeah, when you change your username, it changed the ownership of everything. And I don't know how I can I don't know how I change ownership of it. Other than I know how to share it with you, but not to actually change ownership. Oh, here we go. Maybe. No, that just deletes it or it stops sharing it. So yeah, you have to create it with your user for it to be owned by you. And then it's yours from that point on. No, I didn't create it for you. Each one of you had to create your own, and then I just set it up for you after you created the template, because otherwise you wouldn't have owned it. I would have owned it. Okay, so anyway, back to the year. The manor house. Let me look up a few other dates. Okay. Sir Aubrey was the leading figure of the Carlisle expedition of 1919 and was among those murdered in Kenya. Currently, Edward Gavigan is the foundation's director, and he became the director of the foundation in 1919 whenever whenever the Carlisle expedition was massacred. do a search here for 1921, see if there's any other pertinent things that occurred. On that date. Oh, guess it'd help if I was searching the right book. 1921. Let's see. Okay. At this particular point, you guys do not know of anything else having to take place in 1921. You can give me a history roll. Sure. I'll let you do that. Yeah, this is an obscure piece of knowledge that Kansas would not have been really too interested in. However, 1921 does kind of bring up some memories because that was the year you guys went to Peru. 1921 was also when Jackson Elias's book, The Black Power, was published. Alright, so that's going to be a completely separate department, and you're going to have to go over there, and that will conclude your day because you spent quite a bit of time doing these. Actually, I think by the time you get over there, they're going to be closed because you spent a good portion of the day fitzing around with bureaucracies and researching in those the other two departments. that you researched. Now, of course, you still have more time to do other stuff, but as far as looking up uh, records in the government offices, it's past business hours and they're closed. I think they're wanting you to check in to get word on the street about unusual things taking place. Right. They have a much broader scope. They're not going to be worried about individual missing persons reports. Unless one of those missing people happen to be someone of interest, who is already in their radar. Then, they might know about it or care. But just random people, they're not going to know anything about that. Now, they could, of course, put out feelers for information if there's particular people that you're wanting them to research. Okay, so you can call that in, and they want to know what your interest is in these people. You're going to give them the lowdown, the scoop. I figure you've been reporting everything to them so far, so yes, and they did raid her place. So they let you know that, I mean, obviously she has already been on their radar. And so it looks like she is underground. They cannot find any other properties that she owns. It does look like she is in tie with some people back in Egypt. And she's also has some connections to Edward Gavigan. Um, Big mystery there. Those are things that you guys already have figured out. And she does not, as far as they're aware of, she does not own any other properties other than the um, shared warehouse. They have staked out the warehouse. Um, they've seen some activity there, but nothing that looked suspicious. Nope, no sign of any kind of hostages or anything. I They are not researching Gavigan. There was no reason for them to dig in on a prominent British citizen. his record seems pretty squeaky clean from what they can tell. Um, Other than jointly owning this warehouse, which that's not really a crime or anything unusual in and of itself. She's a business owner, he's a business owner. They both deal with Egyptian antiques and artifacts and whatnot, and so as far as they're concerned, they're have some business connections. Seeing as how he is a well-to-do British businessman, it's probably assumed that she was introduced to him um, through Egyptian contacts, and that he helped her finance this warehouse because she probably wasn't able to afford it on her own. And they use it for um, shipping and receiving of various different things coming to and from Egypt. There weren't any other jointly owned properties. The warehouse was the only one. All the other properties were solely owned by Gavigan. You're gonna have them start doing that. You're gonna have them start digging on Gavigan. That he's the director of the Penhew Foundation. That he has a townhouse here in London. That he has a country estate, and that he um, owns Henson Manufacturing. Just the one shared warehouse. No other warehouses. Now, it's probably likely that he probably uses some other warehouses, but he does not own any. In fact, I think you guys have come across a clue in the past of a warehouse that is used, but you have opted not to follow up on that yet. Yes, the Limehouse. Um, they basically seem like it's a holding house for things that it's on the docks, and it's a holding house for things that are being shipped from Henson, and also to they handle things for the shipping to the Penhew Foundation as well. Okay, now I'm just going to throw out there that all of this stuff that Irene is doing is not considered taking it easy. I mean, it's not like fighting and all that stuff, but doing research and all the running around from this place to that place and investigating is not bed rest. So, um, just so that it's the only reason I'm stating it is just so that it's not a surprise because I want you to be aware of the fact that based on the rules, whenever you go to make your recovery roll at the end of the week, if you have not taken rest, then you will get a setback on your recovery roll. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of the repercussions of that, because I didn't want you to spend all this time doing this stuff and say, well, I didn't know it was going to cause me to take a setback. So, right, yeah. The only thing that's going to cause you to get worse is if you fumble your recovery roll. So if you fumble your recovery roll, then you'll actually degrade. Your condition will degrade. So, if you, just to summarize here, now for the rest of you, this doesn't matter. It's only because she has a major wound. So when you make your con roll, if you fail, there's no recovery. If you succeed, you gain 1d3 hit points. If you get an extreme success, you gain 2d3 hit points. You get a bonus die if you had complete rest in a comfortable environment for the entire time. You add a bonus die if you received effective medical care throughout that time frame by someone making a medicine roll at the end of the week and determining that. You get a penalty die if you were unable to take sufficient rest, or if your doctor fumbled their medicine roll. To heal the major wound and remove it, you have to either roll an extreme success on your recovery roll, or your hit points have to come up to half or more than your full total. And then if that's the case, then complete rest in a comfortable environment is a bonus die. Penalty die if you're in a poor environment. Oh, and unable to take sufficient rest. Okay, so yes. So only if you're in a poor environment and unable to take sufficient rest, then you take a penalty die. So since you're not in a poor environment, you're just not taking sufficient rest, you're not going to get the bonus. As long as you're getting your normal sleep and all of that stuff. If you start like burning the midnight oil and not taking care of yourself even on a basic basis, then that would lead to the penalty die. Anyway, so an extreme success, or if you healed half of your hit points or more, then you get to remove the major wound and you start recovering normally from that point on. If the roll is a fumble, a lasting injury, a complication, or a worse condition results. Have fun making things up to reflect that condition, such as a permanent limp, blindness in one eye, missing fingers, scarred face. Okay, so at this point, it's in the afternoon. Are you guys going to head on over to the Limehouse to check it out, or are you going to head back to the hotel? Well, I am not going to NPC Charles for the Limehouse. So if you guys want to have Charles come along, then we will need to wait until he is here to do that. Or you guys can look into other things in the meantime. You can kind of put off the Limehouse. Okay, so you're going back, going to sleep, resting. Alright, everyone, give me a luck roll. Funny. 2 fumbles. Get those fumbles out of the way. No, this was for recovery. You're resting overnight. You weren't staking it out this night, were you? I thought you said you were going to go do your research first. Okay, well, it is the next morning. It is now Wednesday morning. And so, what are you going to research Wednesday morning? Yes, also 1 hit point for those of you who are not majorly wounded. Okay, gonna go dig through the police blotters. Plus, keep in mind that every day that you keep putting off going to the Limehouse, that's one more day of healing. Around the same area as the warehouse or some other area? Okay, the Limehouse is on the docks. The warehouse that is shared is over in Soho, which is the same neighborhood where Empire Spices was and the Blue Pyramid. Okay, you look at the police blotters, you run through missing persons, you find a bunch of missing persons uh, reports in the police blotters. How far back are you going? Are you just looking like the last few days? Are you looking like for the last few months? Okay, past 6 months. That's a pretty significant period of time. As I said, you do find a slew of missing persons reports. Give me a library use roll to narrow it down. Okay. There have been some missing reports, uh, or missing persons reports from down at the docks. Um, several suspicious activity reports. Most of those seem to have been investigated and found to be um, derelict individuals. Um, just vagrants, people down at the docks, or um, homeless individuals, things of that nature. Nothing really seems to point out any particular implication that there's a hotbed of activity right around the Limehouse or anything else. Um, Now, as far as going over to Soho, since you're narrowing in on that area as well, you find out again there's a multitude of missing person reports. Um, you find out that there is a increase, statistically speaking. Um, More people seem to go missing about a week to 2 weeks before the new moon, as you kind of look for patterns and things of that nature. Yeah, suspicious activity as well. That's why I gave the vagrant people and stuff like that down at the docks. Suspicious activity. Um, but most of them were homeless people. There also are a couple instances of maybe noise complaints around the Blue Pyramid. Um, late at night, loading up um, stuff uh, in like a panel truck, kind of vehicle. Um, and just a couple instances of that. Not anything that just really screams out, um, major pattern or anything like that. There are, I already told you about the increase in missing persons about a week or two before the new moon, as you kind of look at patterns. Now, the police blotters actually, of course, don't state this. This is kind of a recurring pattern that you notice after looking over the last 6 months of stuff, that the statistical increase in complaints and missing persons goes up around that time frame. Let's see, extreme success. What else? There have been complaints filed of um, on a few different occasions. Nothing recent, but in the past, it looks like uh, there was the occasional complaint filed about um, a bunch of people coming late at night to the um, Empire Spices. Um, that address seems to pop up a few times. Um, Multiple individuals seen late at night, at the business whenever it was supposedly closed. Um, the police arrived and investigated, and the owner was present and stated that she was having um, special guests, special hours for select customers, and so the police left, since the owner was present and said, "Hey, everything is fine." And let's see, the panel van truck activity. And that's about it. What do you mean they wanted him to escape? He barely got away with his life. Yeah, but he's never gonna admit that he was bad at it. Of course, as I've stated before, when that was taking place, she had no way of knowing that her shop was being uh, broken into at the same time. Because had you guys not broken into her shop and found stuff in there, then you would have never have suspected that she was anything but an innocent victim. Maybe she just wanted to see exactly how horrible he was. She was over there silently trying to maintain her will and keep from laughing out loud. What a pathetic attempt. Maybe it was because of Kansas's ineptitude that she never really considered you guys that much of a threat. Of course, then the mystery goes to say why, if she's a business partner and owns a shared property with Gavigan, did she talk about how bad he was and want Kansas to kill him? Now, that's not like every night the truck comes. There's only been like 2 reports in the last 6 months of some sort of a disturbance, where too much noise was being made and um, with a late night delivery. So now instead of going to Limehouse, you guys are going to the pyramid? You're actually going to show your faces there again after the botching that took place your second night in London? Yeah, the club is open at night. Okay, so that is your library research for the first half of the day. Okay. And a return visit to Soho. So who all's going and what is your mode of transportation? Are you going back to the hotel? Or are you going straight from the police blotters? Right, Barney didn't go there. I don't think. It was the doc and Irene and Kansas and Charles. Irene ended up not being able to enter, so only the doc and Kansas and Charles went inside. Right, Barney met Irene outside the club, and they went over to the spice shop together. Hmm. Okay, so is Barney taking a train over to Soho? So Kansas is going also? Okay, are you going to do anything to change your appearance? Okay, without your hat, you'll take a penalty die to all tasks as you feel naked and insecure. I'm just joking with you. You're not actually going to. Alright, what is Irene doing while the guys are going off to do this? Well, you guys weren't heading back to your hotel, so you're leaving straight from your research. So there's not really a chance for you to do a whole lot to change your appearances or change your dress. Unless you're all heading back to the hotel before you go. Plus, that way you can make sure that Irene gets safely dropped off and Charles can watch over her. So you go back to the hotel, you get a change of clothes, something that looks less conspicuous. Kansas leaves his hat and his whip someplace safe. The club opens at 6. And once you take the train back out of town to the hotel, back into town, then we're looking at it being around 2 p.m. Okay, you guys get off the train in Soho, you make your way over to the Blue Pyramid, and what is your approach? Being stealthy, trying to blend in, focused more on spotting things that are unusual and not so much on trying to stay out of sight. What is um, your approach? Just give me a description of what you're doing. It is currently 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Alright. I am going to need 2 skill rolls based on your description. One of them is going to be disguise. And the other one is going to be investigate. Oh, there is no investigate. Never mind. I was thinking of, let's see. It's not spot hidden. What the hell is it? Thought there was an investigate roll skill. Yeah, just give me an idea roll. Okay, so both of you suck at disguising yourselves. But you do kind of meander around the neighborhood, and particularly around the building. Depends on who knows Barney. Remember, Barney wasn't here, but Barney is known to be part of your group. So, okay, as you're walking around the neighborhood, one group, Barney starts to notice that, you guys, I don't know, are the two of you like walking side by side, or are you kind of separating yourselves a little bit? Okay. So Barney notices that he picks up a tail as he's walking through the neighborhood. And then his tail and he notices that 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 Kansas also picks up a tail. And Kansas, uh, you realize also that you pick up a tail as well. What is your reaction to this? No, you did not. You picked up the tail at some point between the train station and getting to to the pyramid. Someone in the neighborhood. You get a feeling that it was a little closer to the blue pyramid, that someone recognized you. Kansas, on the other hand, uh, he picked up his tail pretty much right as he stepped off the train. In fact, you're not even really sure if they didn't follow you on the train. You certainly hope that they didn't, because that would mean that maybe your hotel is compromised. Okay, are the two of you going to merge back together? Or are you going to kind of stay separated a bit? Okay, well, since you're talking to each other, I'm assuming that you kind of merge together. Notify each other that you have kind of picked up a tail. You notice that there's a total of about 3 people following the two of you. As you kind of glance back and you look around, and alright, so you're actually going to the building now and going to continue to inspect it. I didn't know if you were going to change your approach since you picked up some people following you or not. So, alright, so you of course see the front entrance where the big sign uh, announces the Blue Pyramid Club that you guys had, or not you guys, but where Kansas had entered about a week ago. Has it been about a week? I think so. And you do not notice any other doors on the front side of the building. As you venture down the side of the building and checking out the back alley, you notice that there is a door on the back side of the building. On kind of like the far back corner of the building opposite from the so if the front entrance is on the south facing side of the building, towards the west side of that face, the other door is on the north side of the building towards the east side. Kansas, Barney, both of you give me a spot hidden roll. Kansas is oblivious. He's who focused on checking out the building and kind of worried about these guys who are following. Barney, you notice that you've picked up a fourth tail. This guy is blending in better than the other three, and it wasn't just like an automatic, okay, I see this guy following me, kind of an obvious thing. I mean, this guy is more kind of making himself more discreet. Are you guys lingering around the building, or are you just like passing, walking down the alley, and that's it? Okay. You pass on down the alley, and you exit out onto the main crossing street once more. You look back and you notice that you still have the three people tailing you and Barney. You don't know anything about this fourth person. Barney says that there's some other person, but you're like glancing back and you don't see anyone else. As you're walking down the street, you notice a couple bobbies walking in your direction. On patrol. They kind of stop occasionally, talking to some locals. Moving on along the way. What are you doing? Oh, you notice the front door and you notice the back door. You can leave, you can try to check the place out more, you can do all kinds of different things. Yeah, there's people out in the street. This is a business district. So there's shops around and yes, the three that are on you are relatively close. I mean, they're not walking side by side, but they're relatively close to each other, within about um, 5 meters of each other. The fourth person, Barney, is a bit separated from the other three. Now that's exactly what Irene meant. She meant go up right there where the cops can see you and just turn around and open fire on them. Hmm. With all kinds of public bystanders and everything, that's the way to do it. There's two bobbies on patrol. That would be an interesting sight. All right, so how are you handling this situation? Let's give me some descriptions, some actions, some ideas in character. This is what I do. If the truck even shows up, you don't know that the truck will be there tonight. There was no pattern that you could determine from the police reports. Alright, you're being followed. You're coming up on the bobbies. Here in just a moment, you're gonna walk past them. The bobbies are walking down the street in your direction, stopping occasionally, talking to people who ask them questions. You're following by 3 people. Barney sees a 4th. Uh, what gives you the reason to think that, they're bothering that lady? Looks like they're just walking to me. Actually, no. They're not even walking. They're stopping there. They're looking in those shop windows down there. Well, if they were following her, then she's walked off now, and they're not following her anymore. The lady's walking down the same sidewalk as you, and one of the bobbies goes over and stops the lady. Ma'am, could I speak with you for one moment? Yes, sir. What is it? Those three men down the way there are. Do you know them? These two gentlemen seems to think they were following you. She looks back and she's like, "No, I've never seen them before." Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure that they weren't giving you any trouble. No, sir, no trouble at all. I'm just here doing some shopping. You can go on about your way then. And he dismisses her, and she moves on down the sidewalk. And the other Bobby says to you, to Barney, says, "Well, thank you for your vigilance, but it seems like you were worried about nothing. The lady's moving on the way, and those guys still haven't moved from their spot." Give me a perception roll or a psychology roll. They do not seem like they responded at all. Kansas thinks that maybe they might have been just a little bit concerned at first, but then whenever the cop looks away from and the lady moves on her way, and uh, they don't do anything more than the three guys seem to kind of relax a bit. It looks like for a moment there they may have been ready to kind of give up, um, turn around and walk away. And what about you guys? What are you doing here? I don't recognize you. You new around these parts? And your friend here? Don't hear him saying anything. Ah, so we have a yank, huh? Now, what are the two of you doing walking around here trying to stir up trouble? Yes, well, not every person walking down the street is looking to prey upon some woman doing her shopping. Otherwise, I guess I may as well haul the two of you away. Maybe even him over there, or that guy over there. He kind of chuckles a little bit, looks at you a bit inquiringly to see if you um, agree with the misperception and the folly in your logic. He looks at you about crossways and looks at uh, his partner. Says, "Now, why'd you go making up a story whenever these guys are following you? Is there a reason they'd be following you that you didn't want to tell us about?" You think it's because you're a Yank? Did you say something to offend them earlier? Where they might want to take it out on you? So, what do you have to say about it as he looks over at Barney? Were, were these guys picking on your friend, or you think they're targeting him? Just waiting on Barney to finish saying whatever he's typing out here. There we go. Yes, well, perhaps maybe it's just your imagination too. This isn't America where everyone goes around trying to rob someone or stab someone in the streets. Shootouts in the middle of the market square. We don't do those sorts of things here. But if it makes you feel better, you can go on about your way and we'll go talk to them. If they seem to be following you. As well, you enjoy your stay here in London. Make sure that you stay out of trouble. You guys going to continue walking down the street? Okay, as you guys start to walk, the trio kind of looks and they're kind of like glancing your way every now and then. They start to kind of walk, but then the two Bobbies meet up with them on the street, walking the opposite direction. They hail them and pause them for a moment and uh, hold them up a bit while you continue on your way. At this particular time, are you going to like duck off the sidewalk, try to lose them amongst the crowd while they're distracted, or are you just going to keep moving along as natural? Okay, give me a spot hidden, Barney. You do not see the other guy just right off the bat, so you'll have to see if you can spot him in the crowd again, since you kind of lost him while you were distracted talking to the cops. Yes, you can get a boost for knowing what he looks like. Okay, you spot him again. And he seems to be kind of hanging out off to the side. And he's kind of more focused on the other guys than on you. The guys who are stopped by the cops. You don't know. But what are you going to do at this point? Are you going to go ask him? Or are you going to continue on about your way and try to lose the three that were following you? Okay, so you're just ducking off the alley. I mean, off the street into an alley. Are you gonna blend in with the crowd? What's your mode of losing these guys? And how are you laying a trap? If you're gonna keep yourself out in the open, though, where you can keep an eye on this guy, then that's gonna mean that it's gonna be harder for you to hide from the three. So you have to kind of make a choice. Are you going to make yourself more visible by trying to watch this fourth person, or are you going to be more focused on losing them all? Okay, you need to give me a stealth roll with a bonus. Yes, for both of you. Are you going to spend any luck, or are you going to keep it as it is? Okay, Kansas moves off into the shadows like a cat in the night. Barney almost loses sight of him himself. He's like looking around. Wait a minute. Where did Kansas go? Barney is a little bit too concerned at first about keeping an eye on this other guy, and he realizes that he's kind of keeping himself exposed. And so he steps back a little bit further to maintain a better hiding position. Kansas still doesn't know what fourth person you're talking about. And you wonder if you're talking to yourself because Kansas doesn't seem to be anywhere around at first. Maybe you'll spot him later. After the Bobbies get done talking to the three guys and they walk on, the three guys seem to pick up their pace and move down the street a little bit faster. I mean, they're not running, and because they don't want to alert the Bobbies or anything else, but they do kind of pick up their pace, and they're moving down the street a little bit faster, kind of frantically looking a bit, almost like they're trying to find you guys. Give me a spot hidden roll for the fourth guy with a setback die. Or you get a bonus and a setback, so an even roll. And let me roll for him again. And you do not see him. He is lost in the crowd. You kind of were ducking back into the shadows, so far trying to hide yourself from the three men that you kind of lost sight of him in the crowd, and the three guys are, you know, walking briskly down the sidewalk, looking to and fro like they're trying to search you out, and you do not see the fourth guy anywhere. Okay, you maintain your vigilance. The three guys, I want to give them bonus dice for multiple people and make a single roll. They walk on past you and they do not spot your hiding position. And it seems like the coast is clear. And you never spot the fourth guy. You're not sure where he went, where he disappeared to. You leave the area, you make your way back to the train station. Any last moment requests before you board and head back to the hotel? Alright, so after warning Kansas and alerting him to what's taking place, you board the train, you head back to the hotel, and you meet up with Irene and Charles. And that will be it. It is now 4 p.m. on Wednesday the 18th. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days until the new moon. And that will be the end of the session. And we will resume next time.